All right, we're live. Give people a few seconds to come on, and then
Okay.
we'll get started.
Awesome. Do you want me to share it too?
Yeah, you can. Yep.
Vince, can you share this from Terrell's page to the Shelton for Senate page? Thank you. Thank you, assistant or partner or CEO, whatever you want your title to be today.
All right. So we could probably get started.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us today. People Power Hour tonight. We got a special guest, Miss Alisha Shelton, U.S. Senate candidate. How you doing, Alisha?
I'm doing well. How are
That's
you
good.
doing?
I'm great. Great. It's good to have you on. How you been?
Oh man, I've been a little frustrated with this pandemic. Yesterday
Right.
was a hard day. I'm sure you know in your district the shootings that are going on. Um, Not very many people are talking about it. I think Noise Omaha, they're doing a really great job on their website of highlighting the issues. Um, I just feel that we need to do more for people. A lot of this is, I think, side effects of the pandemic.
No, I agree, and it's also something I know you talk about a lot. It's a lot of we don't focus on mental health,
Mm-mm.
and a lot of these issues. Not to say like everything can be solved by just addressing mental health, but I think if we put more emphasis on addressing the mental health and the trauma that many of our community members are dealing with right now, especially during a pandemic, people are trying to figure out if they gonna get unemployment after this week, how they gonna make it work. It's just a lot of issues that we're dealing with that go unaddressed, and then it spills out into the streets at times, which is sad.
You're absolutely right. We are the wealthiest country in the world. That's one thing that we've boasted about for years, being the biggest, the brightest, the fastest, the future, right? We were the first to put a man on the moon. But in the time of this pandemic, in the year 2020, we are regulating. We are not done. We have not managed this virus. That's number one. We are
Mhm.
forcing people to go back to work. We are removing the additional $600. We are forcing a mandate in job search. The only thing that they have not done, unless they've done that recently, and I've been trying to listen to so much information, I could have missed it, was the mandate that you had to wait a week until a week. You had to go a week without unemployment, basically without pay to receive the unemployment. And so I'm very frustrated with a system. And I think in the wake of George Floyd, in the wake of everything that has happened, Breonna Taylor, how many times have we tried to speak out about the issues that are affecting Black and Brown people, the systematic oppression? Now everyone is listening. And I don't know if we're listening because everyone is at home. I've been calling George Floyd the Emmett Till of our generation, right? Because he was not the first person who died from police brutality,
Right.
but he was the one that we witnessed and we saw. And that really triggered many, many, many of us into action.
And
And
I
so,
think I saw somebody say it was kind of like the perfect storm. We ended up in a pandemic that happened, and it was something that you couldn't avoid. And
mm-mm,
one thing I say that's different about the George Floyd situation that was different than the others is you can't deny it. When like there is no gray area within it. You can't say, oh, maybe he should have did this or maybe he should have did that. It's clearly there for everyone's eyes to see, and you can't deny what happened.
mm-mm.
So, one question I wanted to ask you: how was it running as a black woman for a federal seat? How has it been, and what are some obstacles that you had to deal with so far?
So far, so in the very beginning, pre-primary, we saw that I don't even know how to call it. I'm just going to call it what it is. We saw various levels of racism, whether they were overt or covert. And we ended up having I had many conversations with individuals who basically said they just didn't feel comfortable voting for a Black person right now. When I did some of my calls, my ballot chases, that's exactly some of the questions that I received was, wait a minute, are you a Black girl?
Wow.
And I'm like, well, I am a Black woman,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think I've met you. And so one thing that is interesting about me being a mental health therapist is I love the mind. I love to understand behaviors. I love to understand why we make the choices we make. And I very much so ask the question, like, why do you believe this way? And what I basically heard was, I've always believed this way. Like, they don't know me personally, right? But this is just a standard that they've had. Most of them tended to be older. So this is a standard they've had for years. If there's anything that we know from living, is the older you get, it's harder for some individuals to change, to change mindsets. So that was something that I expected a little, not as much as I received. And so I think that we've talked about the wealth gap before. African Americans, it would take 11 Black families to equal the wealth of one white family. And so we as a community are not always able to donate to a campaign. We as a community are not able to have candidates that we truly get behind with our money. We may get behind them with our voices and try to contribute where we can. But there's big money, big dollars in politics. And so I think that what worked really well for us was utilizing budgets well, knowing how to utilize resources. I'm the only Senate candidate that had a commercial out. And I think towards the end somebody else released one, but we had a commercial that aired in several places. We did text messaging or text banking, phone banking. We went out on the corners and waved, signs like we couldn't canvass. This was not a traditional campaign season, which I think every candidate had to kind of make some changes. But I do think now people are having the conversation more. Right. I think now this perfect storm that you described, people are aware of their biases a little bit more, whereas before I was trying to talk about implicit bias. Now people are seeing it and understand it, and they are being champions trying to participate and change that. So that's really amazing to see.
Right. And even speaking on the fundraising thing, like traditionally, once you start fundraising, they say reach out to your family, reach out to your peer group.
That's right.
And a part of me was like, but I know my family, like, they're not well off to be like, yeah, they maybe can give $5 or $10 here and there, but it's not like other people in other communities where they can reach out to a family member and might get $1,000. It's like, it's a stretch to maybe get 25 from our family sometimes. So I feel your pain.
And you're in law school, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm not that much older than you. No, but I'm I've got years on you, probably almost a decade. But I've attended graduate school, and so in my network, that was my very first task to ask absolutely every person that knew me, and in making those phone calls. And that first from November, I announced on Thanksgiving till the end of December, I was able to get $10,000. And that was amazing because I did not anticipate that from my network. But that just talks about the bonds that I made with my sorority members, with traveling as a Delta, going to conventions, going to regional conferences, right? I've got like a little bit more career professional jobs ahead of you where you are finishing up law school, right? So there's also different levels to this. Right. Like there's so many factors that come into play when you are rising with a group of people, which you are doing. You don't always have any extra. And then when you get to a level where you think you're okay, and now the pandemic has occurred.
Right.
What happens?
And
right.
So that just added a whole nother obstacle. Because I say for me, when I was after the election, and you go through and you look at the precincts where you did well in, when I was the precinct I did the best in is the one I canvassed, and I was like, dang, I wish I was able to continue canvassing, but because of COVID, it was like I'm not complaining. I mean, I made it past, which is monumental for me, especially
Mm-hmm.
being a first time candidate. But I look at that and
Yeah.
like, dang, it's a that was a lost opportunity, but I got another chance to build on that though.
Absolutely. And you are everywhere. I'm seeing more people. You're even outside of your district. I saw your sign off of 108th, and I don't know what that was. Maybe like by Blair High Roadish area. It might have been like between Fort and in that area. And I was like, oh, I should get a sign too. I'm not in your district, but I would love to
Yeah,
market for you.
it's
I think
it,
many people are talking about you, so you are doing some things correctly.
I've been trying. I just use my mentality that I used when I was wrestling. It's like, yeah, I might get taken down, but the fight ain't over. I still could win this match. The way I'm looking at it, so I just got to I had to refocus and re-strategize and devise a plan to win, and that's what I've been doing. I just been trying to be as present as possible and answering questions. A lot of questions haven't been the easiest at times, but I try to answer them to the best of my ability and just try to let people know that I'm somebody that's willing to listen. I'm somebody that's going to fight for you. At the end of the day, I'm not going to make any promises, but all I can do is tell you that I'm a fighter and we're going to fight together. And that's my message.
I see that in you. One thing that I respected on the campaign trail is that I'm somebody that calls a spade a spade. I am a transparent leader. I am a transparent person. I will never promise anything. I will never say shoulda, coulda, woulda. And when I feel an emotion, I embrace it. Like, I am very passionate about culture. I'm very passionate about love and equality. And I saw that same passion in you when we had our conversation about healthcare. And we were talking about, unfortunately, what the governor has done with withholding Medicaid expansion from when we voted on it in 2018. And so that same fire that I had about, we need healthcare, we need it now. You exactly had the same thing. And so
Right.
that's really awesome to see that in you. And that's one of the reasons why I really hope that everybody does what's correct and puts Terrell McKinney in the state Senate. We need him.
Thank you. So, what have you been up to lately?
So lately we are doing so much. So I feel like, oh my God, I'm so blessed with a great, great team of individuals. And so we did a town hall Tuesday yesterday. Tomorrow we have a Camp Shelton, and then we're introducing a new series. It's called Shelton Serves ... So we'll see what we'll be serving everyone. But this Friday, my sister and I are going to be cooking. So for my family, I'm the fourth of 8 kids, and cooking and family gatherings, like, that's home to me. So we are the family that you can play a song, or a little kid, one of my nephews can like beatbox, and everybody will dance, or everybody will do that, go so and so, go so so. Like, we just get together, and I love it. I love it, love it, love it. So we're going to share a little piece of that. I'm going to be sharing a little piece of home with everyone on Friday, especially in the midst of this pandemic. We thought it'd be a great way for individuals to get to know me.
That's dope. I think that's a dope concept because a lot of times when individuals like us run for office, some people try to place us in this other stratosphere like we're just not normal people. And I think it's good to show people that I'm just like you. Like
Absolutely.
I'm just like you.
Absolutely. I worked at Charles Drew a few years ago as a mental health therapist. I worked there when I was in grad school too, as a patient advocate. But the amazing thing about that was it was kind of a full circle moment because, Pleasant View East was right up the street from Charles Drew. And so one day, I'll never forget it. I was just in a rush and going back to the clinic for something, and a woman stopped me and was just like, oh, what do you do here? And we had a conversation, and she was basically like, well, I can tell that you've never struggled, you've never been through anything, and I just want to know, like, how is that possible? As a Black woman. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm glad that I look polished, right? But there's a story. Every person has a story. Behind every set of eyes, there's a story. So, I think Terrell's coming back on, guys. So another thing that Terrell and I share is that we both came from a level of poverty. We were in the poverty level. And he grew up in the projects. I believe it was Spencer Projects, and you can correct me, Terrell, when you come on. So that's something that we were able to connect to as well. In addition to that, Terrell has a story about police brutality that he witnessed as a youth, as very young age, and like elementary school age. I was at least in middle school, but that does something to your system, right? That makes you question, why do they talk to me differently? What's the difference between me and anybody else walking down the street? And as a child, you start seeing the obvious factors. You pick up very quickly that it's because of the color of your skin, because that's what those are the obvious things that you can tell. And so that was something that we were able to have a conversation on as well. And simply sharing that this is something that needs to change. Like, we need policies that work for the people. We need to bring the people to the table. The people need to be put first, and every candidate that runs for an office needs to be put first.
Can you hear me?
There's a little bit of a feed. Oh, now it's good.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know what happened, but
no, I was talking about
why. I heard a little bit what you said.
Did you? Okay, yeah.
Okay. So I didn't live in those projects. I think when I was like 8, 9, we lived in the projects in South Omaha.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, we lived over there for a minute, and then that's where kind of one of my first experiences seeing how our police treat our women and treat our community. Because something that happened at our residence, and cops came in, and the way they treated my mom has always lived with me. And a lot of times when you talk about the police and you try to hold them accountable, people try to say like, oh, you don't have a lived experience with it, so why do you feel this way? And I always try to tell people like, look, I done seen them do some stuff that it's hard to just forgive and get over. And they're not willing to be held accountable for those actions. That's why I feel how I feel about them. But yeah, and also I did grow up poor. It's been a struggle my whole life. Within my immediate family, I'm probably the first person to graduate from college, first person to get a master's, probably the first person to get into law school. But I have other family that but within my immediate family, I'm the first. And for me, it hasn't been about me. It's been more so about setting an example for my daughter, to show her that she can achieve whatever she wants, no matter where you come from. You can be whatever you want to be. You just got to put your mind to it and do it, honestly.
So tell us about your daughter. How old is she?
She's 10.
Okay.
Her name is Sanaya, and she thinks I'm her DoorDash driver right now.
Well, you're dad, so you do everything. Dads are, you're still our superhero at that age.
Right. She calls me like, Dad, I need some Starbucks. I need some food. Go get it for me. I'm like, hold on. Can you say hi? How you doing? You know what I mean? But it's cool. I enjoy it. I mean, I enjoy being a father. I think it's one of the greatest gifts I've ever received in life.
Yeah, I love that. And that's another example of, like you said, people thinking that we're different. We're really the same. Children if you read the research, they motivate parents all across the board. That is everyone's motivation. Like, let's look at I'm gonna forget her name, the sweet actress that passed away. In the somebody type it in the chat, that was in the river. She was on the river.
Naya River.
Yeah, right. And when they said that her 4-year-old son was found on a boat, I was like, oh my God, something terrible happened. In her last breath, she got that baby on the boat. I just knew it. I just knew it before I read the headlines. And when people were talking about how there was some type of distress, I was like, I can believe that, but it's a tragedy. But that just shows the love that parents have for their children. And so that
just makes me think about the situation with Kobe. I can't say he did it, but me just having a feel like I wasn't a Kobe fan. I'm gonna be honest. I wasn't a fan, but I respected him as a player and the attitude he brought to the game, and also respected how he took on the role as a father, and he really was doing his best to uplift women's sports and uplift his daughters. So I just think about Kobe when he was in that situation. It was like I'm almost sure he just grabbed her and just held her. And so definitely that's tough to think about because I am a father, and that situation has definitely stuck with me.
Absolutely. That was a hard one too. And you know what's interesting is that you have the same drive and determination. I read somewhere, or maybe it was on a video, maybe it was during Kobe Bryant's funeral, where someone said that he was shooting basketball hoops in the dark of the gymnasium one day. Like just practicing, right? Practicing his craft, making sure that he's the best at it. I see you read policy the same way that I read policy. I see you get into the nitty gritty, like comparing information and doing your research. And I love that. And I think that I equate that to that example. Like, it doesn't matter what we have to do. We're going to get the information and we're going to find a solution out of this dark area right now.
Right. And a lot of people think I'm quiet, and it's not that I'm quiet. I just like to analyze situations and listen to people talk to try to figure out what to say and what's the right move to make. I'm not one to ever really panic. Like in chaos, my mom and my family don't like it necessarily, but it could be chaos, and I'll be the one like, okay, what do we do next? Like, you know what I mean? Like, find the solution. I just always been that way. I'm calm. I'm laid back, and I don't need to yell to express myself. I don't need to yell to try to get my message out. I'm just gonna be Terrell. That's what I try to tell people when they're like, "Oh, you're running for office. Why don't you speak up more? Why aren't you louder?" I'm like, I'm being me. Like, at the end of the day, if me being me doesn't get me elected, then I don't need to be elected. But I'm not gonna get out here and fake something just because I want people to vote for me.
And your presence is amazing. Your presence is enough. I've seen you show up and be silent, and I've noticed you in the crowd. I've waved you over and been like, "Oh, Terrell, come here!" Right? So I love that, because that speaks to the level of transparency that we both bring to the table, right? Like, we're not. This is who you get. You will see me. You can go back on Facebook. You'll see pictures with my hair like this. You'll see pictures with my makeup like this before I even ran for an office, right? Same thing with you. You're going to see your lifestyle. They're going to see that we are constantly working on the better versions of ourselves, working to bring love to our families, to support to our families, working to decrease that wealth gap as much as possible so that we can too contribute to the work in our country so that we all can have the American dream and have it without being beat up every day, unfortunately, by the police. So yeah.
From your position, how do you feel about the rush to open back up? For me, I think it's wild. It doesn't make sense. I think in the end, it's going to affect more people than it would have if we would have just buckled down and just stayed shut down a little bit longer. I think the rush to go back is going to backfire.
It is. And so I totally 100% agree with you. And when this first happened, I'm the type of person that when there is a problem, when there is an issue, I want to find a solution to anything. So it doesn't matter what it is. I want to do the research and figure out the best way. My family will tell you, I used to always see deer driving to the reservation on Winnebago. You know, it's a 3-hour drive. And I did the research, like, what do I need to do if I see a deer ever? And I found out that, oh, if I see a deer, I don't need to slam on the brakes. I have to accelerate so I can hit it and drive over the deer. That's really hard to tell your mind that. If I see something, push on the gas more so that my car can drive over it, right? But I did the research.
Story, that happened to me last year. I was driving on the interstate. It was a semi on the side of me, and 2 deer start running across the highway, and I couldn't swerve because the semi was right there. So I just had to hit the gas and just. One got by and I clipped the other one, but it totaled my car. But,
oh gosh! And you're here to speak about it today. Thank goodness. Right. See, that's something you knew. I did not have that instinct. And then even to lay on the horn, like to honk your horn a lot, like I was like, oh, that makes sense. Didn't know to do that. So when the pandemic happened, the very first thing I did was I went to Xavier University of Louisiana. They're #1 in placing African Americans into medical school. It's a historically Black college. They also have a pharmacy school. So I started talking to my network. What do you know about this? What can you tell me about this? Then I started looking at the CDC as soon as they had information. And we did a coronavirus reopening plan. And in that plan, all the science will tell you that if your numbers increase within a 14-day period, or start increasing from day to day, then you shut it down and you go back to phase 1, or you go back to everybody wearing masks and staying in, and you close down the restaurants for at least 14 days. We've not done that. Our reopening, I don't even know what phase we're on. I hear Governor Ricketts say we're on phase 4. How are we on phase 4 when our numbers are tripling? This is science. This is numbers. It's math.
What doesn't make sense to me is when the cases were low, we shut everything down. But the cases are high now. We want to open up. It just doesn't make sense. It defies all logic for me. It's like, really? So all these cases are spiking, but we want to open up. But when it was only 40 to 50 cases, we wanted to shut everything down. Logically, it just makes no sense.
Right. So are you really trying to protect Nebraskans, or are you just looking out for money? Because we know traditionally the people who are working on the front lines and grocery stores, wherever you go, it's Black and brown individuals. The other thing is that Governor Ricketts has shared that they do not have to report the cases that they have. So I can tell you for a fact that I know people who work at Target, who work at Walmart, who have tested positive, or have an employee there has tested positive, and they found out from the employee, not the company sharing information. And the company is not covering any bills for them. They're not doing anything. So if we can't get a hold on this now, why would we be trying to send our babies to school and even ask the teachers and the principals who are already working tirelessly they finished out that last semester strong, but we need more federal dollars into the school system in order for us to get PPP and to work on this. And this is the reason why I say federal dollars, because yes, schools get funding from the state, but it depends on where you are located in your state. So traditionally, the state schools that have lower amounts of money tend to be the urban schools. And they tend to have older books or outdated materials. And so it's time that we make it consistent across the board and increase Title I funding. And every school should have an epidemiologist, an expert that they can go to, that can walk through and share and give advice on what they should do. Let the teachers teach. Let the principals be principals. We don't ask Governor Ricketts to be a governor and a doctor and a dentist. We ask him to be our governor. Let everyone be what they are in their career, but give us the tools to be successful and thrive. That's the area that really is frustrating to me, because I would not, and I don't know if people think about it like this, but I'm a mental health therapist. When I started in the field, they told me you need to prepare for losing one client. Like prepare for a client to take their life, and just prepare, make sure you're ready to tell a family, what happened. And I said, no, I don't want to prepare for that. I'm just going to visualize I won't have a client take their life. I'm going to make sure that I do everything possible to prepare that client, that family, to help them get over this hump, because that's not something that I want to think about. But I have counseled individuals who have lost people by suicide, who have lost parents by car accidents, illnesses, people dying from complications, diabetes, autoimmune diseases. And it is it's earth-shaking. It's heartbreaking to talk to someone and hear their shoulda, coulda, wouldas. So do we really want to talk to a parent who sent their child back to school to learn if that child ends up dead?
Right. And that's what I like. What was it, last week or the week before? Nelson Mandela opened up. And I think it was just last week, it was reported they had cases in a school. And that's a small school. So just imagine if it's a bigger school, and it's just like, it doesn't make sense, because you're right. If a kid dies, is it worth it? One kid dying, is that really worth it? I don't want to be the parent that has to lose my kid,
right?
Because this government wanted to send kids back to school way too early. We don't fully understand this virus yet. There is no vaccine or cure for it, but people want to place money over lives, and I just think it's sad and poor leadership.
Absolutely, I agree with you, and I am embarrassed to be an American at this level. I thought that this is something that we would handle quickly, swiftly, and help other countries. And unfortunately, our numbers are increasing so much that countries are saying that we can't come visit them. Just a few days ago, the Bahamas told us we can't come there. If you're American.
Europe either.
Yeah, we can't go to Europe. There's so many places. There's I think 40 something countries now. So that is just an example, but you're right, Terrell. We don't need to lose one. I don't want to lose another Nebraskan, period, to this virus. This is a novel virus. It is named for coming into existence in 2019, which means we don't know everything that we can know about this. It doesn't matter if epidemiologists, if we had a crew at the CDC studying this virus for every day, they still need years typically to understand the impact of this virus. We don't know if people are going to need lung transplants down the road. We don't know if this is going to look like emphysema. We don't know if it's debilitated. We have no idea. We also are finding out that temperature checks may not be as effective in people who are asymptomatic. So if you don't have a fever, and when you're talking about the kids at Mandela, because I know that they made them wear masks and they were doing temperature checks at drop-off. So this is what we're talking about. This virus moves differently. And also, we don't know if it is morphing, if it is changing. If it changes, that sets the science back months. So we are not ready to reopen. I would urge anybody who is watching, write your state senator, write your U.S. senator. We can contact Terrell, comment here. We will give you the information to contact them. Let them know that you do not agree with this plan, that you want more science, that you want a plan where everyone is safe and teachers are not completing wills to go back to school.
Right. Where was that at? I saw a law firm was offering living wills for teachers. Is this the world we're living in? It makes no sense. It's just, this year can't even.
I didn't even read that. You know what's interesting is I would love actually a law firm to offer living wills, because many minorities, we don't do a good job at putting a will in place, i.e. Patti LaBelle. We all know what happened when, I'm sorry, oh my God, not Patty. Aretha Franklin, not Patty. Oh God, no, I need Patty, not Patty. But when Aretha Franklin passed, she has children and there was no will. And then somebody found a will. And, I don't even know if that will ended up being a will that was legit or stood in court. But we don't do a good job of writing wills. This also happened to Prince. He did not have a will. And so the artist, the music company was able to take that money that could have drastically helped his family. His family could have honored him in various ways. We need to do a better job at wills, but let's not do it just because we're opening the schools. Let's maybe take a step back and say, oh, we might not be ready to open the schools yet. I would prefer that response.
How do you think they'll be able to come to some type of agreement on this stimulus package they're working on before the $600 runs out within isn't it this week or it's the end of the month? So
unfortunately, and watching the conversations, I don't think so. I am really disappointed. This is one of the reasons why I ran and got into the race to run for United States Senate. These are bipartisan issues, right? Wealth, being able to buy groceries, that's a bipartisan issue. This coronavirus, that's a bipartisan issue. Why? In the highest office where you make laws, why can't we talk to each other and work together? It doesn't matter if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent. What matters is, what do the people in your state need? Right. How are we going to get that to them? Let's talk and figure out a plan so that every small business owner can still, thrive. We have the people who were furloughed are not able to continue their unemployment. We're talking about cosmetologists, massage therapists, all these individuals who were able to obtain unemployment because they were encouraged not to open. We have people working in the supply food chain. We have people that are here working for ConAgra that are doing the best that they can. I know because my husband works there. We have restaurant workers that are going to work sick and being told if they can't come in, then they won't have a job. How do you do that to people? So
it's like they really don't care. Like I just don't get it. It's like why are we placing these dollars over people's head? Like, oh, you don't go to work, then you're not gonna get this money. And it's like, do you not see what's going on outside? It's a pandemic, and we're not taking it serious. And I just is a part of me is like. A part of me is not surprised though. I'm gonna be completely honest here. When Trump was elected, I was like, okay, anything can happen now. So I'm not completely surprised, but it is sad because it's a lot of people that are standing with him and other individuals like Ricketts and our mayor that are definitely going against the will of the people. But it's like, what do you do? Well, you get them out of office is number one thing. Something I want to transition to is the importance of voting. But it's like, how did these people end up in these offices in the first place? It's like, what are you hear your whole life that you got to be qualified to run for this. You got to be qualified to get this job. You got to be this, you got to be that. But then when you look at the current leadership structure in our country, it's like, bro, like I could just go to college, graduate high school and do better than this dude in the White House. It don't even take rocket science. You know what I mean? It's like, really, how did the barrier get lower so low? It's just sad.
You know what I think happened is, in looking at history, first of all, there's always a new generation with new ideas. If you look at history, there's always a group of people, the people who rise up and come into leadership are doing so because they feel compelled to do so. They think that laws need to change. They are not settling for what's happening. And so they are motivated. And I think, unfortunately, in a weird way, when Barack Obama became president, that it motivated a specific group of people who were rooted in white supremacy, and that they have been doing work to get to elected positions. And I've heard individuals talk about this. I've heard people say that they were upset to see that we had a president that was Black. And I think that many people who are minorities were like, wow, like we didn't think we would see the day that would happen. But we like Barack Obama, not because he's Black alone, because he is super qualified, because he knows his research. This man studied the Constitution. Like, you study the Constitution. We're not talking about like someone who I don't know was, you know, sat in an office, or, you know, maybe had a bunch of hotels and, you know, filed bankruptcy a bunch of times and then ran for an office. We're talking about someone who knew the data, knew the information, knew the laws, knew that what could be possible. And so I am also not surprised, but what I know for sure is that there is power in people. And if we can mobilize, if we can teach individuals how to send emails, to send letters, to call, if we make a system where each U.S. senator gets 5 calls a day, each, you know, the governor gets calls, if we mobilize, we can make sure that our voices are heard and give that soft nudge of, this is not working for Nebraskans and this is why. Because at the end of the day, we have to be the light in this state. We have to come together and shine a light on what is not working for us.
And I try to tell people, like, if we sent 1,000 emails or we did 1,000 calls, they have to listen. Not even 1,000, 50 calls, they're gonna listen. Yeah. It just takes a consistent effort to do so, and which is why a thing I was talking about somebody a couple of weeks ago about figuring out a way to transition the protest into the ballot booth and figuring that out, because I think until we do that, we're going to continue to fight the same fight. I think I love the protests. I love seeing people in the streets saying Black Lives Matter and trying to stand up against oppressive system. But we also got to be strategic about it and not only be in the streets. We got to be in the ballot booth to get people in office that are going to represent us, and those people that have our best interests at heart.
I think you are absolutely right. And so, in speaking about the protest, like, what do you think? Because your district was one of the districts where it's largely African American based, right? You have a large amount of people who are registered to vote there, but did not show up to vote in the primary. And so, what are you doing, or how can we support you? How can the public, how can we all come together and mobilize and explain the importance of us voting?
I've been just trying to meet people where they're at. I don't want to. My goal is to not get in front of somebody and preach to them and tell them, vote or die. You need to vote because your ancestors died for it. None of those strategies work. I'm gonna be honest. Even if it's right, the strategy doesn't work. So I think we got to try to make it as practical as possible. You're like, look, you in the streets and you want to jury your peers, you might want to register to vote or encourage the people around you to register to vote, because if not, you're gonna have an all-white jury and you're gonna wonder why you get railroaded. Stuff like that. So just try to we just have to have the tough conversations and try to get people from the mindset of my vote doesn't count, it doesn't matter. Because I used to think that. I admit it. Like, I'm like, dude, what am I voting for? It don't matter. They've been doing this to us for forever. Like, it really don't matter. We still gonna be oppressed. But I've just learned over time that, especially on the local level, that your vote can matter, because you're going to get affected locally before you get affected by the federal. So it's really important. And as far as helping me, I say the biggest thing is telling people to vote for me, spreading the word, sharing my post on social media, registering to vote, getting your family and friends to register to vote. And another thing is donate to my campaign.
Yes.
It doesn't take a lot to donate. Donate $1. If you got $1, just donate your $1. Just show that you are part of the fight with me. That's all I ask for, and just continue to support me.
One thing I loved about what you said is there's an old saying. I hear it on the radio. Where Joe Madison, if anybody listens to that satellite, he's a political radio host, and he always says, you got to put it where the goats can get it, which basically means make it practical. Don't use a bunch of fancy words. Just put it in layman's terms so that we all understand why we should vote for state senator, what a state senator does, what a U.S. senator does, how it's affecting us and how it's impacting us. And so one thing that we have been trying to do with our campaign is speak about the impact on politics and how politics impacts every single thing you do, how much money you get back for your taxes, how much you pay for tuition, what you end up, the hours you work, how much money gets taken out of your check, the daycare policies and procedures, your health care and your health benefits, everything. Politics is related to every single thing. And you have to get involved. You have to understand the pieces that impact you. That's the best way for you to have a happy life. Once you understand what is impacting me and what can I do to change it.
And one thing that I think we all have to stress up until November is voter education. Because election day for the primary, I had people calling me, I don't know where to go vote.
Oh.
I'm not sure if I'm registered. Got to the poll, I'm at the wrong polling place and things like that. So I think we really have to emphasize voter education. And that's not to just say, just go vote for me. That's just across the board. I'm not going to tell you just to vote for me blindly, because I wouldn't tell you to vote for anybody else blindly. Do your research. And we have to put things out, me as a candidate and us as community members, out into our community to get them to understand and the importance of voting, but why they're going to vote in the first place. Because a lot of people don't know that. A lot of times it's just like, oh, you need to go to the poll today and vote. And people get in there and be like, oh, I don't know this person, and just strike a bunch of stuff, and just you like that. It's part of the reason why we don't got affirmative action right now.
It's not the SAT. It's not the ACT. Don't just circle dot. Don't just fill in a circle. We want you to do your research. I'm so glad that you said that. And also, I'm not sure that everyone is aware that when you register to vote, you actually should put your phone number down so that candidates can call you. There are so many people that I see that are new. When I was doing ballot chase, they may be registered to vote for the first time. There's no phone number listed, or the phone number is automatically a wrong number. How do you expect to hear from the candidates? How do you expect to be involved? How can people reach out to you and ask you questions, especially if they're in your district, if you don't give them the information to do so? And so that is something that I want people to start expecting that. Expect the candidate to do that.
Right. I've been seeing that the past couple of days, just making calls. It's like you got to basically skip a bunch of people because they don't have a number, or if they do have a number, it's a false number or it's disconnected. And it's like, when you fill this stuff out, provide your information. It's a way to keep you engaged in what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
So what's next?
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. Go. Finish. No, you finish.
It's your People Power Hour. I'm here for you.
No, I thought you were talking. I know you made the interview. I thought you was about to say something. But I was gonna ask what's I know you talked about the Camp Shelton.
Yeah.
You got I forgot what you called it, but your
Shelton Serves.
New concept. Shelton Serves.
Yes.
How can people get in contact with you, and how can they reach you?
Yeah, so check out my website, sheltonforsenate.com. That's SHELTONFOR, Senate.com. We are also at Shelton for Senate on Facebook. On Twitter, we're Shelton4 Senate. We're on Instagram and TikTok as well at Shelton for Senate. So check us out. We are moving forward in this Senate race. We are doing everything we possibly can to be on the ballot in November. And if we are not on the ballot in November, we will be on the ballot in 2024. So,
okay. So you're on TikTok. I'm not on TikTok yet. My daughter is, but I'm not. You be doing them?
I did one TikTok video. I think I'm going to do another one, though. I've been getting a large amount of my nieces and nephews and some young individuals that it's not all about dancing in the beginning. I thought it was all about dancing. And so I suppose I can get on and answer some questions and, point my finger in a few different places and say, this, and here's my answer, or however they do that. But Yeah, we're thinking about doing some more videos. We should do a TikTok together.
We should.
Yeah. Great.
I tried to do one with my daughter, but she was like, "No, Dad, I'm not doing it with you." She just pushed me away. So we could do one together.
Yeah.
Another thing I don't think people really understand about what's going on with your campaign and the Senate race. And we didn't really talk about it, but
Yeah.
can you just briefly state how you can end up on the ballot and what's going on?
Yeah. And so, unfortunately, at this time, it just sounds like there's a large amount of confusion for individuals. I know that there was new information that came out today, but I think it's also important for people to hear. So, this is what happened. Our current Senate nominee, who obtained about 30% of the votes, which is about not very many people that voted for him. Angie Phillips and I together, we obtained like 64% of the vote. So I said that to say he made it through the primaries, and unfortunately, he made a choice to send a text message to a staffer that worked for him. That was basically sexual harassment. Not basically, it is sexual harassment, and so what the text message stated was that he thought that they should use campaign funds, and this is in a group message, that they should use campaign funds to get her laid, and that he wanted one for I'm going to say anatomically correct term. So if anyone is watching with a child in the room, please, I'll give you a couple of seconds. Okay. One for the vagina, one for the mouth, and one for the anus. And so as a woman, as a person who counsels, who first got into counseling working at the WCA, that's heartbreaking to hear and to see. And so not only that, the Nebraska Young Democrats have released a statement stating that they have been inappropriately touched by him, that he has hugged people from behind, that he has smelled somebody's bun, that they have always felt uncomfortable and have never wanted to be around him. And so we see a pattern of behavior now. And Peggy Jones, a professor at UNO, stated that he called her a racial slur. So the Nebraska Democratic Party has a code of conduct. When you become a nominee, you sign this code of conduct and you agree to adhere to it. Think about it as a job description. If you start working with an employer, they say, okay, we're so glad to have you. Here's your job description. Do you agree to these duties? You say yes. And you guys are in agreement. That's basically like a contract together. And so in the code of conduct, this behavior is not tolerated. So this was a violation of the code of conduct. So when you violate something, there was a conversation stating that, look, you didn't uphold your end of the deal. And so the Democratic Party asked him to step down. Now, I want to make this part very clear, because I was not recruited by the party. I was simply at home doing something, and Angie Phillips called me the minute that this news broke and said, we need to come together. What are you thinking about doing? And I was like, I'm still processing this. I can't believe that this happened. I was really disappointed. I was thinking in the aspect of, how can we support this staffer? What services does this staffer need, right? I can't imagine how they're feeling right now. And so Angie said, well, let's talk about who wants to step up. And I think whatever we do it together. And so thank you, my sister, Angie Phillips, for endorsing me. We did a press conference the very next day. We both are survivors. We share that in common. And we know the importance of women sticking together. And we thought that this is the right thing to do. We're going to do it. We're going to lead by example. So if anybody selected me, it was Angie. Like, she initiated the phone call. We talked, we had a decision. And so there's so many mixed messages that are going out here. The Democratic Party has a chair. Every chair of any committee that uses Robert's Rules of Order, they do not have a vote. That chair basically leads the procedures that happen. So I cannot be single-handedly recruited by somebody when I got into the race on my own. So don't take my glory. Don't take my hard work. Don't spread rumors and put it in statements and say something that is not true. But at the end of the day, if somebody shows you who they are, I definitely believe them. And I see this pattern. I see many untruths, and I'm very disappointed because Nebraskans deserve better. So the only way it's basically a sore loser rule in the state of Nebraska that says that if you ran for the United States Senate in the primary, you cannot do a write-in campaign to be on the ballot in November. And so the current nominee would have to step down. However, they have until September 1st to step down. So what the party did was they voted me as the nominee in the event that he steps down. And so it wasn't to put two nominees up at the same time. It's because there's not another meeting before the time that he has before the deadline date. And so the body came together. So it makes sense when you have to have a vote from the body, it makes sense to do it that way. I think it was brilliant. But also, we're getting mixed messages from his team. 1 minute behind the scenes with us, we are hearing, oh yeah, we're going to step down. It might be July 1st or August 1st. But now today and previously in the media, we are seeing that, oh no, we're not going to step down. So which one is it?
Right.
So I want to be very clear. I'm not somebody who is I'm not a bully. I am someone who did not expect an opportunity to come up. I am here to right the wrongs. That is the path. That is my passion. I am here to help people. I am here to advocate. I am a strong advocate. And so I would have to, it is in my characteristic to work and hard to be on the ballot, to do all the campaigning that we have to do in the event that this person does do what they said to us, or that they change their mind to the media or whatever they shared with the public and then decide to step down September 1. We have to be ready. It is a math equation. I know what the win number is. Ben Sass got 300,000 votes in the primary. And so we have our work cut out for us. So we are doing the work to campaign. And hopefully, and I don't know when the dust settles, or hopefully, I would love to have a conversation with you, Chris Janicek, if you are watching. I would love to have a conversation, because this is the last thing that people need. This hearsay of in party infighting. I don't know anything about that. What I do know is that we both ran to unseat someone, and we had an agreement that person, we both put our name in the hat because that person is not doing their job. And so if we can agree on that, we can have a conversation and work this out. And I would love to have a conversation with you if you are watching.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, I have to put it where the goats can get it.
Well, we're coming to a close, and I just want to remind everybody to visit our website, peopleforterrellmckinney.com. If you haven't, like our Facebook page, Terrell McKinney LD11. You can follow us on Twitter, T_McKinney 2020. And also, if you haven't, donate to our campaign. We're running a people power campaign, and every dollar counts. So if you can, donate to our campaign, and we'll see you again next week. We'll be back at our regular day, next Thursday, hopefully, if something else don't come up. But I really appreciate your time, Alisha.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Thanks for having me on, and congratulations. I'm excited about what you've done so far. I'm excited to see November 3rd and the results, and let's continue to be the change we want to see.
Definitely. Thank you. And thank you all for tuning in. Have a good night.
Bye, everyone.